Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Registration granted by SEBI, membership of BASL, and certification from NASM in no way guarantee performance of the intermediary or provide any assurance of returns to investors. Welcome to the Quit Podcast, brought to you by Dyota Solutions Private Limited, SEBI registered investment advisor, license number INA 000007216, presented by Kaushik Ramachandran and Nandakishore Sethuraman. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Quit Podcast. We did speak about retirement corpus in one of the previous episodes, and we did tell you methods in which you can simply calculate how much you need for your retirement corpus and how you need to start tracking, breaking it into smaller pieces and tracking your retirement corpus. But that is that each of these smaller pieces that we speak about is a milestone that you need to achieve. How do we get to that milestone becomes a big challenge for most people. There are a whole host of products which are available in the market, creating a lot of confusion, lot of noise, lot of problems in terms of decision making. As Sheena Iyengar, the renowned decision theory specialist, she said, too many options is also a huge problem. And here we are trying to identify how to make it absolutely easy for you to achieve your retirement corpus and those smaller pieces that we speak about. So here we have Kaushik, who is going to help us identify which are the products that we are going to be using to achieve those milestones, both the smaller ones and hence your retirement corpus. So Kaushik, your opening remarks.
Yeah, okay. So building the retirement corpus, okay, the time frame is significantly long. I'm looking at a minimum of 15 years during the accumulation phase. There are two phases for building the retirement corpus. One is the accumulation phase, which might take anywhere 15 years, and then the withdrawal stage. I start withdrawing. I don't contribute, but I have to start withdrawing to manage my monthly expenses. That could last another 30 years. Right. So I'm looking at a total period of 30, 40 years. Now, such a long period for investing and managing my retirement funds. Right. So that is the first point which comes to my mind. Which investment can I trust
for a 40-year
time period? Right. What are the investment options that is available to me that's going to remain for the next 40 years? Right. And that's where I will start going back to Morgan Housel, same as ever, right? What are the things that I should start exploring options which are going to remain at least, not forever, at least for next 30, 40 years, right? So given the current scenario, right, whatever that we are, having, so there are three products that comes to my mind, which I believe that will probably can last for next 30, 40 years, and without me having to really go through a lot of stress. One is a provident fund.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it could be either in the form of a PPF or in the form of employee provident fund.
Oh, EPF is a brilliant product.
Yeah. So these two products are, they've been there for, for last 30, 35 years, or maybe more than that. Yeah. And I'm sure that it's going to be there and it's not going to go away. All the government has been talking about merging the EPF with NPS and all those things are there. Yeah. But I think, given the kind of subscriber base that is there, which is like more than 25 crores, right? Probably the single largest investment with about the number of subscribers will be more for that. And if you look at the demat account, it's only about 5 or 6 crores, but we are looking at an EPF about 20 crores plus. Right. So that's going to, I feel that will last forever. So the provident fund is something which
that is going to be.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I'm looking at a retirement corpus building. Right. Yeah. And the second is, of course, I think the NPS, which has been like catching up, because I think most of the government or public sector organizations who had the guaranteed pension, except the railways and the army. Right? I've already, moved to that. Anybody who
NPS.
joined the, workforce after 2004, have been moved to the NPS. So that's going to remain. I think that's also going to remain. Although there has been a lot of debate, some states, not wanting to be part of the NPS, and there is a lot of, debate going on there. But I think there's again the subscriber base. We're dependent on that. NPS is also large, and that's also going to be there, right? So the second option that's going to be there for building the corpus is NPS. Right? Third one is the mutual funds. They've also been there for very long time, and there is a lot of options that is available. Extremely well regulated product. I mean, I can't think of any product which is so well regulated in India today. Which is managed by the private institutions. So that is one. And within the mutual fund itself, right, the index funds, right, they really stand out as an option for me for a very super long term. I would call it a super long term of 10-15 years kind of an investment strategy that I'm going to have. So now earlier, I think the index options were restricted to the Nifty 50 or a Nifty Next 50 or Nifty 100. But I think now, it's becoming more and more predominant that we are having, every category available as an index.
Yeah.
So I could be able to build
we recently had a fund house which launched, I think, 6 indices together.
Yeah. So I think, there is going to be we're going to see more and more index categories and index funds, which is going to be a, very cost effective option for me to build a stock portfolio, through these index funds.
Right.
I can't think of any other products, which can have such long-lasting life, other than these, 3 categories.
Right. So essentially, you're boiling it down to EPF, National Pension System, and mutual fund portfolio, one's own mutual fund portfolio.
Yeah.
So we did spend a lot of time on the mutual fund portfolio in our previous episodes and things like that. Of course, how much ever time you spend on all this, it's not going to be enough. There is a lot more that we as experts, we also end up learning a lot on a daily basis. So it's also important to share it with the others. But let's just try and, focus on EPF a little bit more, right? A lot of people, especially in the in the new age organizations and things like that, seem to resist EPF, right? And I firmly believe that EPF is a great product because it's forced saving. So I would like to have your views on that.
See, EPF has always been a very good retirement planning tool. I have interacted with quite a few public sector employees, right? Particularly, our RCF, where quite a few of our clients have come from. And most of them have not done anything. I mean, when I look back, people are retiring today. Employees who are retiring today, or maybe about 5 years back or about 10 years back. The only savings for them have come from the EPF. The forced 12% contribution by the employer and the 12% contribution by the employee. 24% of your basic, has gone
CTC,
towards the basic has gone towards the forced savings. And you do that for 30 years of your employment, right? And at the end of the year, you can't imagine what is a kind of, but they were also lucky. Many of them are lucky that they got 12% return sometime back on the EPF, absolutely, right? Which you're not even getting on the equities today, right? So that has kind of helped them to build a compounding returns, right? And today, that corpus alone is enough for many of those PSU retiring employees today to manage their rest of their life. Right, so it is something which I shouldn't be ignoring, and why employees don't want to do it is primarily because that when you're given a choice, right? Obviously, people think the PSU employees were not given a choice. You have to do it.
It's gone.
That's it. It's gone. I mean, there is no choice only, right?
Yeah.
I think this is what is happening is today. The relationship between the employee-employer is also not for very long, right? I mean, if you look at 30 years back, the 1970s, 1980s,
right,
when they've joined these organizations, they probably are going to end with the same organization.
Absolutely.
So there was no question. Today, I think many of the employees are not looking at that kind of relationship.
Convenience
Both
relationship.
of them.
Yeah.
I also don't want to retain the employees for such a long period. They also don't want to stay with me for a long period of time. So that is one fundamental change which has happened. That's making many people think that, okay, why should I, put, right? That is one thing. Second is, I'm not having the vision for my retirement. Oh, okay, so what will I do? What am I going to do for my retirement? I'm not having my retirement plan in place. I will see it later. It's not an urgency, I think this is where Stephen Covey also talks about his matrix. Urgent and importance, right? It is important, but not urgent.
Not urgent.
So anything that falls into that matrix, which is not urgent, that's not, I'm going to
It's
postpone.
not going to get mind space.
It's not going to get my mind space. I'm not going to look at it immediately. Right? So these two factors are probably, these are the only two factors which I feel that people not taking the EPF.
I also think that, it is a reasonably difficult activity to deal with Employee Provident Fund Office. EPFO, at least till about 5-8 years ago, dealing with EPFO was a huge problem. Today you have UAN, today you can do a lot more online and things like that, but still I have a lot of people who have come back and said that, my two earlier employments, they did not merge, it's not coming under the same UAN, will I get interest on that? Those kind of problems are there. So I think EPFO also needs a little bit of a rehaul.
Yeah, I think considering the fact the volumes that they're handling,
right.
Probably the largest investment product in the country today.
Yeah.
With so many subscribers,
right,
and so many complications, right? Yeah, I mean you should expect. And also, what happens is again, it's not a very urgent thing because you can't withdraw tomorrow anyway, right?
True.
You got to wait till you're 58 years to start the withdrawals, right?
Right.
So there is no urgency on that. And there is also, the investment is also fairly stable. It's not giving you a variable return.
Right.
It's giving you a fixed return every year. So you don't need to check the values on a daily basis, what's happening and all that. So, so all said and done, yes, you need to have a control of what is there, as your corpus and EPF. It is, the portal is evolving, and what we have today is probably much better than what it was 5 years back.
Definitely.
Right? And I'm sure it will improve.
Absolutely.
Right? It is going to get better only. And they also have a good grievance handling. This thing, there is a registration there. You can go on this thing if there is anything. And I have seen the responses are fairly, quick whenever I put a grievance there.
Right.
So if anything is not happening, if you're not able to merge this thing, there could be some reasons, right? Your name may be mismatched, your date of birth may be mismatched. Yes, there is an effort that one has to take and make sure that the account is sorted out. And whenever you get time, at least, take one day out, or in a year, whenever if you have a problem with that, go to the EPFO office, get it done. And make sure that your accounts are getting proper interest,
right,
and you have control of all your investments, which is available in only one login.
Right. And now when it comes to NPS, we've had at least 2 state governments, which, if I'm right, which has gone back to the old pension system and wants to refute the NPS and things like that. Let's leave the political angle aside. How long can anyone depend only on defined benefit kind of a scheme? Because you already have EPF, which is a defined benefit, right? It's a fixed interest.
No. So this thing is the defined benefit is the the amount that I'm going to get after. So I'm saying in terms of the NPS, it is defined contribution. Only your contribution is defined. Yeah.
The benefit that you will get
is unknown.
Is unknown. Yeah. It is market dependent and so on and so forth. So, how long can a country sustain it is something we'll probably not get into. That's going to get into the political side of life. But I'm just saying, shouldn't people on their own look at NPS also? Because NPS, in my view, if you are linking it to the market, the kind of difference that the market has been able to make for investments, isn't that a better option? You have EPF, which is you know exactly how much you're going to get. You are going to get into the unknowns, and at least a good part of it should be in NPS because it's definitely linked to the market. It's extremely inexpensive, as we have discussed in previous episodes and things like that. A little bit of thoughts on that.
Yeah, see, the market linked is where the problem is, because market linked, can be other way also.
Absolutely.
Right. So
But you're talking about a 20-year period.
20-year period. 20-year period. That is where the problem is. If you look at the Japan, right, the index has not given a return for 35 years.
Yeah, but India is not Japan, man.
So in next 35 years, because it's my pension, I'm looking at next 35 years.
Absolutely.
Right? It is possible that, that after 35, next 20, 35 years, I may not get the return from the market.
Right.
I think it's a fair point, from for many of the government employees.
Right.
See, the private employees don't have a choice.
Right.
You never had a choice anyway. Right. At least, the government employees. I think I will go with the old scheme was definitely better. Whether
from an employee perspective.
I mean, you look at the railway employees. I know your dad, right? I'm sure the kind of the pension that he's getting today.
Yeah, man.
Right? I think if he had been, you ask him to change it to a
new pension
contribution plan. Of course, he's not going to work. For the company, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not possible at all, right? It's a fair on the on the employee part. I mean, especially the government employees part. Where the earlier set of employees are enjoying the
benefit a lot
defined
more.
benefit,
Yeah,
and then now I'm being deprived of that benefit. Right?
Absolutely.
So I don't see any reason why state governments or many of them are not really comfortable with that. But of course, it's going to put a lot of drain in their financial this thing.
Yeah.
But that is a cost that probably government will have to take some time or the other to make sure that if they want good employees to for working for them.
Right. So we spoke about EPF, we spoke about NPS. I mean, I know this NPS discussion has been reasonably short, primarily considering that we have discussed NPS in at least 2 of the episodes in very, very good length. So I'm going to now come to the mutual funds, which also we have discussed, but I think this is a really large topic. So on the mutual fund front, right? So you have EPF, which is 12% of basic. NPS, depending on whether the organization provides it or not. If the organization provides it, 10% of basic again. Otherwise, at least 50,000 rupees in a year. And MF. How much on the MF? How to structure this whole thing and how to see this whole thing in a view so that you are able to visualize your retirement corpus and the interim goals that we spoke about in a previous episode. How to do that?
See, I think about 15 years back, if I look at it, the contribution that was done only to the Provident Fund was more than enough for many people to, today we are seeing that the old formula, whatever that they had, many of the government employees, just by contributing only to the Provident Fund,
they were able to retire.
They're able to retire and they are able to get that pension.
Right.
And substantial pension today, which is reasonable for many of the government employees today. Right. But I think what is happening is those days, even the fixed income were close to about 12%.
Correct.
Provident Fund, and they were all giving about more than 10-11% for till early 2000s.
Right.
After the interest rates started dropping down drastically. Now, today we are probably at half of what we were getting for 20 years back.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why the contribution that I'm doing to these two, primary retirement corpus funds is not going to be sufficient.
Not enough.
So I need to supplement it with, another form of investments, and that's where probably the mutual fund component comes in, even for the government employees, right? And the savings needs to be a little bit more, right? And today the savings, the income levels have also grown today.
And the expense levels.
But I think, as long as I kept my savings with respect to my income, my savings is also going to grow. Right. So keep my expense and also savings at the income growth. Right. So my savings are also going to grow. And then there is a need for me to compensate the reduction in the interest rates are going to go down further. If I look at next 10 years, there's a higher probability that they will be much less than what it is today after a decade. I need to supplement it with another product.
Right.
That's where the index fund. That's where the need for the index fund is coming.
Right.
Because my EPF and my NPS, whatever I'm contributing, it's not going to be adequate. Because EPF, NPS anyway, it's also market driven, and EPF, it's only a little amount. Interest rates have come down quite a bit. And also now, contribution about 2.5 lakhs to the EPF also
is going to
get getting taxed. That's also reducing, to some extent what are the eventual corpus that I'm going to get. So that's where the gap has to be filled through that index
Through the
funds. Yeah. For those who don't have the EPF or the NPS, the onus is on them to build that bigger corpus.
Absolutely. So here it is, viewers, ladies and gentlemen, it's absolutely simple. At a point of time, 20 years ago, we found that just employee provident fund was enough because the interest rate on the EPF alone was upwards of 10-11%, which helped build a corpus for people who were retiring in, let's say, 2020s or 2019, 2020, that period, right? But if you look at people who are going to be retiring 20 years from today, your EPF, the interest rates are coming down. So the 12% which you contribute to your EPF and the 12% from the company, so 24% of your basic is not enough. It will not grow enough for you to retire. So NPS, depending on whether it is offered from the company or not, you have a limited amount which goes into NPS. That's again restricted to 10% of your basic. It becomes absolutely important for you to build your own portfolio through mutual funds, through index funds. And that is where importance of having an advisor, having, building your own portfolio and having a clear-cut goal on how much you need for your retirement and breaking it down to multiple pieces so that you can hit each one of those milestones on time. Thank you very, very much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. So that was today's episode. Thank you very, very much for listening in. We hope to see you soon. This podcast is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that the podcasters of this material are not engaged in rendering professional services through this program. If the listener requires personal assistance or advice, a competent professional should be consulted. The podcasters specifically disclaim any responsibility for any loss, liability, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use of any of the contents. The contents are general information that is intended to, but not guaranteed to be correct or updated. The information is not presented as a source of investment, insurance, or legal advice. You should not rely on the statements or representations made in this podcast or by any externally referenced sources. If you need investment or tax advice upon which you intend to rely in the course of your financial and business affairs, please consult a competent, independent, registered financial advisor. The content should not be taken as financial advice or as an offer to buy or sell securities, insurance, funds, or any financial products. It should not be taken as an endorsement, recommendation of any particular company or individual, and no responsibility can be taken for inaccuracies, omissions, or errors. The information presented is not to be considered as investment advice. The podcasters do not assume any responsibility for actions or non-actions taken by people who have listened to this program, and no one shall be entitled to claim for detrimental reliance or non-reliance upon any information provided or expressed herein. Your use of any information provided herein does not constitute any type of contractual relationship between yourselves and providers of such information. The podcasters hereby disclaim all responsibility and liability for all use of any information in this program.